Hello everybody, Darren Cross here, and this is the template video for MBA 661. So what you're going to do in this course, your assessments are going to consist of several writing pieces that are essentially demonstrating your ability to analyze various elements of strategy, corporate problems, and potential solutions, and just understanding all of the implications that might relate to these. And so in order to do that, we're basically going to write a paper, but the paper is going to be made up of several smaller writing assignments that actually contribute to strategy, right? So by the time we go through this, you will have done many analyses that will help you understand what's going on inside of the business. And so in order to do this, I wanted to just introduce you to the template so that you can understand how to use it as you go along. Okay, so this is a properly formatted APA document. Okay, so you've gone through all the materials. You know that we use APA. You know that there are some nuances that relate specifically to APA, but you don't have to worry about actually setting things up because this template is actually already set up and ready to go for you. Okay, so I want to talk about several elements of this and show you how to actually work with this as we go through the assessments. Now, the first thing to note is that APA documents actually have a title page, and this is it's a take on APA. There are some extra elements here, but this is how I want you to do it for these assignments so that we can understand what's going on. Note, this is let me see here. This is a header that I put in. You are not going to mess with this. This is the strategy paper. It's going to be the strategy paper for everybody. This is properly formatted, so you don't have to mess with this or the page number, okay? You don't have to mess. The only thing you have to do is go into this template, remove the brackets, and put your information where the brackets are. Okay? Now, as we go into this, what we're going to do, everything is properly formatted here, so what we're going to do is each module, the assessment for each module will consist of an element of this paper. And what's going to happen is when you are in that module and it's time to actually do the assessment or this part of the assessment for that module, then what's going to happen is you will have the link so that you can actually submit that assessment. And then also there will be a video that looks just like this. It's a screen capture video where I explain to you, number one, what areas of the template we're actually going to use or that we're going to complete in that module. But also, I will go into detail in each one of these and tell you the kind of thinking that you should be using as you go through here. So essentially, I'm just trying to keep you super on track with what we're trying to do so that you can go right to all of the skills and competencies that are necessary and that you won't get off track and start doing the extra things that really don't add value or create anything that we're really looking for. Okay, so what's going to happen is in each module, so like for instance module 1, I'll say, hey everybody, this is module 1, we're going to go from here to here, and in this module what we're after is this. Okay, so what I want you to do is, the way of dealing with this is go ahead and download this template, which you can find in, I believe it's going to be right next to where this video is. So this will be reading materials that will be in the pre-course information. So you'll see a folder that says template information. Inside of that folder, you're watching this video. This is one of the things that you should have seen, but also this paper will be included there. This template will be included there as well. So go ahead and download this template, and what's going to happen is module after module, you're going to use the same template. Don't try to retype it or anything like that. What you need to do is actually go in. What I would do is, what I'd probably do is just look at what the information is requiring in each of the sections, right? So, what is it that this stuff is telling me to do? Also, I've watched the assignment video, and then what I would do is I would probably just kind of put this down a little bit, and remember you have to have that indentation there. So, and then I would start to type the information that I have for the paper, and then afterwards get rid of this, right? So I don't want to see any of my own words, okay? But the thing that I want you to understand is each week, as you submit your part of the paper, I want you to take that part and put it in blue font. That way, as I'm reading it, I know you guys are going to all be at different levels, right? This is competency-based, so some people are going to be moving more quickly than others. And so as I'm reading the papers, I need to know where to stop grading, okay? So I want you to turn the part that I'm supposed to be grading into blue, and then just leave the rest in black. Okay, now don't recreate this template, don't get rid of anything, because what's going to happen is in the next module, after I've graded, then what will happen is you're going to put the original stuff back to black. Oops, wrong thing. You're going to put the original back to black, and then in the next module, the following module, the part that I'm going to be grading will be back in blue. Okay? And that way, whenever I'm going in, I'm knowing exactly what I'm going to be grading for that module. As you can imagine, it can be pretty confusing as I go through, and everyone's at a different level, and I just, I'm going to be all over the place with grading, so I really think that this helps me a lot. And so these are the things that I'm going to tell you. This is part of the instructions, so make sure that you do that. Okay? Now, what I want to do is talk about how to be successful with your writing as well. So this template is going to be a part of your life over the next 8 weeks, but I want to talk about how to be successful in your writing. I've taken out the pain of writer's block, really. So although some of the analyses that you do along the way won't necessarily linearly translate to your business, that'll be a conversation that you and I can have in one of the coaching calls or something like that, where I can help you kind of figure that out. But I've taken out writer's block, and I really want you to just stay super focused on exactly what I'm looking for and none of the extraneous stuff, right? So don't put anything other than what we're looking for in that module. So let me just talk about some of the things that kind of plague your writing, and hopefully, and you're still going to do some of this stuff, but I'll catch it along the way, and by the time we get to the last part of the module, I think that you'll be much better off. So one of the first things that I noticed that writers tend to do is instead of getting directly into the material, you guys tend to need to say some descriptive stuff right off the bat. So you'll say something like, so this first part is about introducing a company, right? So this first part, you're going to introduce a company that you're going to be analyzing over the course of the next 8 weeks, or the next 8 modules, sorry. And so people will say things like, many companies are in the automobile industry. GM is one of those companies. You don't need to say many companies are in the automobile industry. You don't need that introduction. What you're going to notice from me is that I just want you to get right into it. GM is an automotive company that produces blank. They're located in blank. I don't want you to put any extra words in here if you can avoid it. Imagine that each word costs you $100. So you want to avoid using words if you can. I want you to try to figure out how to do this as efficiently as you can. Which brings me to another point. A lot of times writers narrate what they're actually doing in their writing. So you'll say, the company that I am analyzing for this course is ABC Corp. Well, you don't need to say that you are analyzing that company, because I'm assuming if you start talking about ABC Corp that that's the company you're going to analyze, right? So you don't have to say the company that I'm looking at or anything like that. Also, avoid saying things like, I believe and I think. It's clear to me that your words on this paper represent your thoughts and your beliefs. So you don't need to say, I believe. And in fact, I think that a lot of times whenever people are saying that stuff, what I feel is happening is that it's because they don't want to marry themselves to it. Now, of course, there are situations where when you're literally saying what you think, when you're dealing with what I think is this, it's different than I think that they are, right? If you're saying that, what you're saying is, don't hold me to it, but I'm going to just put this out there. But the way of making me more comfortable with that is by saying I think or I believe in front of it. So try to avoid that. Another thing that people will do that kind of plagues them is using pronouns like this, they, them, all of that stuff. First of all, if you can avoid using a pronoun, you should. Using pronouns is not always avoidable, but think about it if you can. What often happens is that people use pronouns, and the nouns to which they're actually referring get lost. So imagine the scenario. Sentence 1. The managers at ABC corporations are looking to take care of customers, period. Sentence 2. This is important to them. So number 1, you start with this, and then you say, is it important to them? Well, in the sentence, you talked about two groups of people, so it's important to who? So you have to really just kind of focus in and try not to start. I know that it's a habit. It's one that I had to break. One student a couple semesters ago, made their point. It would be like, the company needs to take this action, and then the next sentence is, this will help them do something. Then it's, this will, right? So try to avoid doing that, and by all means, do not start a sentence with a pronoun if you can avoid it. Now, there are some ways that you can do it. Don't start by saying they are really looking. If you're saying ABC Corporation is trying to develop strategy, period, they are trying to, follow that up with the company is, right? So try not to say they. Another thing that happens is we say this will lead to, you start a sentence with this will lead to. No, you can say something like this action will lead to, or the purpose of this report. You can use it if you are very specific about that, but if you can, try to avoid that, okay? Another thing that writers do is try to create a sing-songy or this isn't a production for like a video that you're trying to produce or anything like that. This is a very academic and business-like presentation of your work, right? So I want you to use academic voice and academic terms. Don't say things like, well, this is something that happens a lot. When you're talking about business, you'll say things like, the business is trying to get a handle on things, right? That is vernacular that is not really academic. I want you to really focus in on what you really mean by getting a handle on things, okay? I want you to use academic voice and academic language. Another thing is, because we feel like this is a presentation kind of thing, we'll say something like, many companies are seeking better strategy. But what does this mean? Question mark. Don't pose a question to me or to your readers. You don't need to pose hypothetical situations or anything like that. Stay really focused and make statements. You'll notice that a lot of times I'll say something like, if you look here, this should be 3 to 5 sentences. I want you to actually do this in 3 to 5 sentences. Now, a paragraph is 3 to 5 sentences, right? but I want you to stay super focused. Like, for instance, in this beginning, I don't need to know the history. I just want to know ABC Corporation. You could say something like, ABC Corporation is a multinational company that produces this widget. The company is located in Anytown, USA. The purpose of this, there's always like a transitional statement, right, at the end of every paragraph. The purpose of this paper is to provide an analysis for ABC Corporation. See, that's 3 sentences for this area. Stay super focused. One of the things that I will tell you all the time is, hey, you're getting off track here. Stay focused on what we're after in this section. I don't want you to talk about anything that we are not after in that section, okay? Another thing is avoid bias and biased words. You are an analyst when you are doing this paper. So what I want you to focus on is remaining a third-party eye on this business. Don't use words like, what we're trying to do at ABC Corporation, or our strategy is to. That sounds like you're trying to put together a marketing piece. I want you to act as if you are a third-party consultant looking at this company, okay? So, another thing is, don't use adjectives that give away your bias on anything. Don't say things like, ABC Corporation has a great way of. I just want you to analyze. I don't want to know what your opinion is. I want to know what the details are. I want to know what the results of the analysis are. Okay, so just try to avoid using words that show your bias. Those are editorial comments, and we don't really need to know that. You could say, don't say unfortunately. Do not put the word unfortunately in this paper anywhere. Okay. Because that's showing your bias, right? You're saying, unfortunately, ABC Corporation is doing that. We don't know if it's unfortunate yet. You need to complete the analysis before we know what's what. And then also, what is the value of noting that something is either fortunate or unfortunate? What we want to know is the data, and then we want to know later on what that data how it translates to what we're trying to do. There are a couple of other things that people do as well. You use words like definitely. This definitely means that. Don't use definitely. Definitely, for our purposes, is only to be used if the quality of being definite is important, right? So if someone says, are you sure? You can say, the answer is definite. It's a definite yes, right? So if someone says, are you going to the party? And you say yes, and they say, are you sure? You can say definitely. But don't say definitely when you're like, the strategy at ABC Corporation is definitely leading them. Why? What is the value of saying that when you can say is leading them, right? It's just it's filler, and we don't need that. And I'm trying to just help people to write better and more clearly, okay? Avoid bias such as, in the company's infinite wisdom, that's just biased language, right? It's sarcastic and biased, and you don't need to say anything like that. And another thing to note is that when you're putting something forth as a fact, that's when you need to actually cite things, right? So if you say something like, companies should take care of their employees because happy employees lead to more productive employees. You just made a statement. Whoever said that happy employees lead to more productive employees? In fact, there's a huge body of research that says that whether or not someone has job satisfaction, which is a measure for happiness, leads to them being more productive. People can be mad at work or not unhappy, but still productive. Now, it may lead to some other things like, turnover and things like that. But when you make a statement like that, you need to cite it. Because you're wanting us to accept that as a truth, and anything you want to accept as a truth, you have to establish. So I would avoid that language, and also, often I'll make comments like, "You really?" I'll say it'll sound sarcastic, and I'll say, "Really? Is this necessarily true? You need a citation," and then I'll put a note. Actually, you should question the value of this sentence anyway, right? So I know that as you're looking at this, you might be freaking out, but really we're going to take it one little piece at a time. But the purpose is I wanted you to look at this video so that you can understand how to work with it. By the time you get to the end of Module 8, you will have done all of these pieces, and you will have done several analyses along the way that help you understand how to formulate strategy, or the basis upon which companies actually formulate strategy. Okay? So this template is going to be a big part of your life. Get to know it. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Good luck, everyone.